have Omar Kendall, the game director from Superbot Entertainment, to tell us all about it. Welcome to the couch, Omar.
Thanks very much for having me.
It's excellent to have you here. Now, can you tell us, just for people who don't know anything about this game, what are we looking at here? Tell us about PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Yeah, absolutely. So, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, the sort of top level, it's a 4-player sort of 2D style brawler slash fighting game, but I think more importantly, we think PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale is a celebration of the PlayStation history, its universes, its characters, sort of all slammed together in this crazy kind of mashup type experience. So we've got crazy characters like Kratos and Parappa the Rapper and Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter fighting on these sort of hybrid levels. So what we're taking a look at here is a Jak and Daxter level, Jak and Daxter inspired level called Sandover Village, but actually during the course of gameplay, these Hot Shots golfers from Hot Shots Golf show up and start having a bit of golf, teeing off in the background, and interact with the characters, interact with the play space, sort of having fun, mashing up all these crazy worlds together to service sort of our environments.
Cool. Now, just as an aside, for the audience at home and watching on Twitch, what you're seeing right now, we actually have some of the live audience members playing the game for us right now. So if you are here at EB Expo and you want to get some hands-on time with PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, just come up to the booth here at GameSpot, and we'll try and get you on. And there may even be a prize at the end of this.
I'm going to say it. There's going to be a prize.
There is going to be a prize.
There's going to be several prizes.
Okay, everyone line up if you actually want to play. We're going to have like a final round at the end of this, and it's going to be some kick-ass prizes, so just, hang around the booth. But in the meantime, Omar's going to tell us a little bit about, the action that's happening on screen right now. And I guess, describe in a bit more detail, what type of game this is. So obviously this isn't going to be, like as core a fighter as something like Injustice or a Street Fighter. So tell us about, what we're actually seeing on screen here, Omar.
Sure. So the big gameplay sort of innovation that we have in PlayStation All-Stars is our super system. So none of the characters in PlayStation All-Stars have health bars or anything like that. Instead, what they have is a super meter. So each character, as they fight, as they attack, they build energy towards performing their supers. These supers are the only way to kill opponents, which is the only way to score points, and it's the only way to win. Each character has 3 supers, and they get sort of progressively better at killing. So like a level 1's pretty good, a level 2 is really good, a level 3 is amazing at killing your opponents. They cost a little bit more, but you perform them with the R2 button. So you're constantly filling up your energy, getting access to these super attacks, and then trying to land kills with them with that R2. So it creates something of a new and interesting gameplay style, a little bit different, I think, than what a lot of players are used to. Obviously, there's 4 players, so it can get a little frantic. But there is a surprising amount of depth, I think, in the system as well.
So why do that? I mean, like most fighting games, you have a health bar, right?
Yeah.
Or something to denote that you have less power or energy. Like, sure. Why just have like a super knockout system?
Well, we really, first and foremost, just thought it would make a really interesting play style, a play type, something new and something that maybe players haven't experienced before. There's sort of this rising tension as players are getting energy and sort of getting closer and closer to performing supers. I kind of liken it to maybe a sport like football, where you're trying to move the ball up the field, trying to get into scoring position. That's sort of when you're fighting and building up energy. Then once you're in scoring position, you start taking shots on goal. That's kind of like performing your supers to try to score points. Nothing's guaranteed, but you're sort of trying your best to leverage your odds and get the best shot possible, with those super attacks.
So with the supers, like they've all got different ranges and different effects. Is that right? Like, is it better to wait for a level 3 super, or can you just try and hit it out the park with one?
I think it very much depends on your individual strategy, sort of what level you're playing on, what opportunities are available to you at different times. I will say that economically, your level 1 supers are a little more efficient. They cost a little bit less per kill than like a level 2 or a level 3. But then the flip side is your level 2s and your 3s are so much more powerful. The kills are a little more assured. So it really is a kind of a gamble, a risk versus reward system, depending on your personal play style and, like I said, sort of the context of the situation.
Okay. Can players actually manually select if they've got level 3 of super and they want the efficiency or the range of a level 2? Are they able to choose which one they unleash, or is it a case of I've got level 3 energy, I have to use level 3?
Yeah, the latter. Sort of if you're at a particular super tier, or a level 1 or a level 2, and you want to use that one, you really need to stop and put yourself in a situation to try to use that super. If you continue to get AP, you will crest over into the next super, and that opportunity might be lost. Yeah.
Do you find it, that people are strategizing that way, where they may not collect AP so they can perform a particular move and then spend a level 2 and then go back to level 1 to quickly acquire rather than a level 3?
Absolutely. I mean, I've experienced this personally when I play the game. There are certain characters who there's a particular super that I personally gravitate towards, and you can really feel it in the match that once a player has reached that super, they'll start positioning themselves in very particular ways on the map, whether that be immediately behind an opponent or maybe high on a hill somewhere where they can sort of be best at, in a position to perform that super. And you can tell, and you can sort of go over there and try to disrupt them and try to throw them, because throws eject AP and can deplete your energy. And there's all sorts of different metas that are established based on trying to prevent someone from ever getting a super at all,
So I'm curious about, obviously this is a hugely rich universe. You've got an almost endless supply of characters and locations. You mentioned hotshots. We're going to see them featured as an environment, but will we see hotshot golfers, for example? Or is it that's such a rich opportunity to put everybody in that you have to pick and choose the way that you include them?
You do have to pick and choose. Actually, when it came down to hotshots in particular, we actually worked very closely with the IP holders, and they felt that their IP would be represented best via a level and a level hazard and a level interaction, as opposed to a golfer in there, swinging a golf club around, like hurting other people. And so oftentimes it is a conversation between us and the individual IPs on how to best represent their properties.
So how do you decide, which characters to select? Like, let's start with, I guess, the Sony first-party titles. Like, what was your screening process, your wish list, and did you get everyone that you wanted?
Well, the process for character selection, it takes many different forms. I think, obviously, there are the characters that the fans ask for. We always hear about Ratchet and Clank. We always hear about Jak and Daxter, Kratos. These are characters that we knew we had to include because in a game like this, those are the kind of characters that fans expect. Then you have characters who we as personal PlayStation fans at Superbot would really be interested in seeing, characters that we think we could make a really interesting play style out of. And then, of course, there's individual IP holders even within Sony who are like, oh, we'd very much like you to represent our character in your game via a character on your roster. Regarding if we got everyone we asked for, well, I will say it does take two to tango. Just because we really, really want a character doesn't mean we automatically get every character that we want. Obviously, a lot of the IP holders do recognize the value. They know that this is a very fan-driven sort of game, and they know that meeting fan expectation, is really important. And they're trying to work with us very hard to make sure that this game does please the fans as much as they know it does need to.
So even with the Sony first-party characters, you have to, I guess, have some restrictions to character? Or can you have Kratos have a finisher where it gives out cupcakes and flowers? Or
no, each individual IP holder has complete approval on everything that their character does, the way their character looks, up to and including their inclusion in the game. So we had to, go on the road to each individual IP holder and get permission to use their characters, and sort of we've been with them along the entire way of development of the entire game.
What about the third-party guys? Because you have some pretty awesome sort of third-party names in there, and even some ones that are you're actually debuting in your game.
Yeah.
The new Dante is going to come out in your game before DMC comes out.
That's right. Yeah.
And Raiden is going to be in your game before his game comes out. So what was the process of selecting third-party characters?
Yeah, it was really similar to the first-party selection. I think we wanted to include some surprises. I think Big Daddy is probably the best example of that. We thought we could make a really interesting character out of Big Daddy, and we could also sort of push the boundaries of what people consider a PlayStation All-Star by including a character like Big Daddy, and working with the guys over there at BioShock has been really great. You mentioned Raiden and Dante. Those are very, very interesting cases because, as you mentioned, those games aren't even out yet. We're sort of implementing those characters in our game while they're being implemented in their games. We really have to push them and ask them questions that maybe they haven't even answered for themselves yet, and that in and of itself is a very interesting process. But again, they've been super cool in working with us and trying to provide us as much information as possible to really deliver on that fan expectation. And we want to make sure that when you play the Dante in our game and then you go and play the Dante in DMC, you're like, oh yeah, they nailed it, they got that character right.
Was it tough to get them across the line? Was it tough to get Capcom to say, yep, have Dante first, and Konami to say have Raiden first?
It really wasn't. I think, again, the precariousness of the situation wasn't lost on us. We knew that they would be working on these characters while we were trying to work on our game as well, and they totally understood, again, the initiative. They understood what the game was about, and so they took that burden on as well, and they worked really hard with us, and we really appreciate that.
Okay. I'm curious about, obviously this is your game and you've put a lot of work into the art, but do you get any benefit out of working with first and third parties when they're characters that already have existing animations? Can you take them wholesale from the Santa Monica team for Kratos, or do you have to create each piece of asset from scratch?
Yeah, well, regarding animations, we can't take them wholesale. Most of these characters come from 3D games, and oftentimes the way that you'll animate a move to work in a 3D space doesn't necessarily work as well in a 2D space. So we take inspiration, obviously, and we've gotten asset dumps from a lot of the developers, and we will use those as inspiration when we're remaking the move in PlayStation All-Stars. But certainly things like character models or various assets like textures, we are actually able to take advantage of, and you will see examples of that throughout the game. Raiden, his character model, which is spectacular, actually was given to us by Konami, and I think looks amazing.
Just one quick reminder again, if you are in our live crowd and you want to have a go at the game, please just line up over here to our left, and we do have a prize at the end, so keep doing. I actually have a question from our live stream that I just want to throw at you. J Pablo 9988 wants to know whether you're going to have character unlockables, or will everyone be open at once?
Yeah, we went back and forth on this. Ultimately, we decided not to have any characters locked, so the entire roster will be available and unlocked the first time you play the game.
That's excellent. I'm a big fan of that.
Oh, okay.
Another question from Macho Mustachio, which I must say is a great name. Macho Mustachio wants to know, is what they're seeing on screen now the final form of the user interface?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Actually, the version of the game that we're looking at now was put together for trade shows. It was put together a few months ago. Yeah. It is a little old. We've made major changes to all sorts of things, the UI, different graphical elements, VFX, sound, that aren't quite represented in this build. Yep. So yeah, you just have to wait a little bit longer. We come out in about a month, and you'll be able to see sort of the final representation of all these different elements then.
I am actually curious about the esports side of this game, and obviously with such a strong fighting game background within the studio and the game itself, are there tools within the game to allow people to, we're seeing stuff like codcasting, giving players the power to be able to send and share their experience with other users? Will you be offering similar sort of tools in All-Stars?
In terms of the esports, and sort of those extra elements, we don't quite have that full range of systems. I mean, obviously we'll support all sorts of different match types and game mode options, and you'll be able to go in and set your game rules to your heart's content. But in terms of that secondary layer, things like that, replays, for instance, are really hard to do in our game due to the way that we designed our characters in the animation system and the physics system. In a lot of traditional games, you can do what's called key logging, which is basically you just store all the inputs and then you just play them out in engine. That actually doesn't work quite well in our game because of our physics system. Things don't always play out the way that they did when you actually played them, so it renders kind of the traditional way of doing replays kind of invalid in our game. It makes it a little bit difficult, so we're going to have to work a little bit longer and harder to pull something like that off.
Hey Omar, I actually have one question I've always wanted to know. Is there a storyline that you're putting around this that, it makes sense for why everyone is in the same universe?
We're trying to make as best sense out of the absurdity of Kratos fighting Parappa the Rapper as we possibly can.
It's just magic.
It's close to magic.
Yeah.
There is an underlying story, yes.
Yep.
You'll be able to get a sense of what that is through each character's individual arcade progression in our story mode.
Yep.
there is an evil mastermind. I won't call him evil. Who is sort of responsible for all the things that you're experiencing, and you will get a sense of who that is through the arcade mode.
So is that a boss then?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
We also have a rivalry system.
Yep.
I think the idea of fantasy matchups is a really big part of PlayStation All-Stars. What would happen if Ratchet and Clank ever came across Jak and Daxter, that sort of thing? So we actually do provide for that in our arcade progression, and you'll see characters have interesting interplay, a little back and forth with each other in their arcade modes. And then, yes, ultimately you do come to sort of a final boss. Yeah.
Okay. And so tell us more about the single-player mode. So, like, what single-player modes are there? You've got arcade, which is story, is that right, or is story a separate thing?
No. Our arcade mode is our story. Our arcade progression is our story mode. It's very similar to traditional fighting games like Street Fighter, where you select your character, you'll find that character's individual motivations. You know, you'll fight a series of challenges, you'll fight your rival, you'll fight your boss. You'll sort of come out on the other side and get a little explanation of kind of what happened and how things went down.
Is it going to be the break where you get to beat up cars and kick barrels? And
you will not destroy any barrels or cars, at least in a standalone mode. There might be plenty of barrel destroying in the actual game itself. We also have a combat trials mode, which I sort of refer to as edutainment. You're going to learn a little bit about the game, but you're also going to have some fun with both a set of general trials that teach you a little bit about the ins and outs of the game, but also character-specific trials that really do deep dives on the individual characters, their movesets, their supers, how to take advantage of particular situations, how to survive different supers, because that's actually a really big part of the game. Just because someone performs a super doesn't mean you're automatically dead in all cases, and all of that's sort of learned in our combat trials mode.
I do have a question. Apparently our stream chat is going nuts. They all want to know, will Crash be in the game?
That's a great question. What I'll say is, we obviously know at Superbyte and at Sony how important various characters are to the game, Crash Bandicoot in particular. We got this question at San Diego Comic-Con, and my president, Cham Park, gave a very good answer. It takes two to tango. You know, we know the fans want Crash. We want Crash. Crash is not owned by Sony. So it is a negotiation between Sony and the IP holders for all of the characters that exist in the game. And, you know, we're very interested in making that happen, but it's not for free. But I do want the fans out there to know, obviously, we recognize the interest in Crash and characters like Crash.
Speaking of which, then, are there plans you can talk about more characters down the track? Any DLC plans that you're thinking of right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of questions about DLC since we debuted the game, and it has dawned on us that it's very important and that the fans are interested in it. And if there's enough fan interest post-launch, we'll definitely want to support the game with DLC. Absolutely.
But right now, there's no more characters sort of planned down the track, or?
Not that I'll be talking about right now.
Okay. On that one, actually, Omar, what are the plans for? Obviously, fighting games live and die by balance, and you can only do so much while it's in your hands. Even if you're focus testing, what are the plans to continue to balance once it's out in the wild and players are actually experimenting with some of the deep nuance of the game?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think you only have sort of a finite idea of kind of what your game is and how it's played internally and through focus testing. But then, you know, the first day your game goes out into the wild, there are more people who've played it on the first day than you've ever played it, you know, while developing it. And very rapidly, different sort of things are revealed. We have a really cool telemetry system that records every single match of PlayStation All-Stars that's ever been played, every character that's been selected, every move that's been performed, every super that's been attempted, and how many kills it got and how many kills it didn't get. We're able to see all of this in the game, even in our beta that's running right now. And so we very quickly get a good sense of characters who are overperforming or underperforming or particular moves that may need adjustment, and we are able to make adjustments based on that feedback.
Let's talk a bit about multiplayer. What sort of online multiplayer modes are you coming out with?
Yeah, so we've got our main sort of ranked mode, which we call tournament mode. What that basically is, there's actually two types of tournament mode. You've got the 4-player free-for-all 3-minute match that you see right now and at most trade shows. We also have a 2v2 ranked tournament mode, which is super fun, but also has a really cool competitive element to it. Both of those modes are ranked with leaderboards, and there's a progression system that you can experience to level up your characters and gain access to different items and costumes and animations, intros, outros, taunts, and things like that. We also have a quick match mode where if you're not feeling particularly competitive and you just want to create a match type of your own different configurations, you're able to hop online very quickly and easily and do that as well. And we do something really interesting with our versus mode. We don't differentiate between an offline versus mode and an online versus mode. We just have a versus mode, and if the three of us are sitting on the couch, we can fire it up. We can take that fourth slot and just grab someone from online and put them into our game and just have a match. And so that mode is actually super fun. Obviously, it's not one of our ranked modes, but it really makes the experience between offline and online really seamless.
What about the, let's talk a little bit about the Vita and the cross-platform play in the two versions. Are they feature identical? Does the Vita version, I know when we saw UMVC 3 on the Vita, for example, it had touch controls for simplified gameplay. Will we see anything similar in the handheld version of this?
We do take advantage of some of the Vita's touch functionality, both the touch screen and the back-facing touchscreen. We also obviously have cross-play so that the PlayStation 3 owners can play against the PS Vita owners. We do take advantage, some of our supers take advantage of some of the swipes. You can also pick up items by touching the screen. But we didn't want to create like an easy mode because the game actually translates really well onto the Vita. The controls are very, very similar. We obviously have two analog sticks and the D-pad and the face buttons, so most of the experience comes over pretty directly. We just take advantage of a couple of the cool, unique Vita functions.
So do you then, in terms of somebody playing crossplay, if I'm on the Vita version, what is there a handicapping system then that stops me picking up items that I'm not physically on? Whereas on the PlayStation 3, I'd need to hit R1 to be over it. Does it handicap me playing against you because I have that additional functionality?
All the same rules apply to all of our systems, so you can't pick up an item from across the room. You do have to be, even if you're using the Vita and using the touchscreen functionality, you do have to be standing right on top of it. So, no, the same rules apply to all players, and in that sense, the game is really balanced and fair for both PlayStation 3 and PS Vita owners.
I want to ask a little bit more about the Vita version, but just got a question from Twitch right now, and it's from Sergeant Funshine Bear.
I feel like sometimes you ask these questions just because of the username.
A good username will always get my attention. Okay, the question is, can you modify the infinite stopping system?
Can I modify it?
Yes.
I, as the game creator, can. No, we're going to ship the infinite avoidance system with a very specific, let me explain actually how that system works. This is obviously one of our savvy readers or viewers. We have a system in the game that tracks the amount of energy that you've accumulated within a single combo. And once you've reached the threshold, we sort of knock you out of it. It's an anti-infinite system. Because when you make a game like ours with a sort of open-ended combo system, you just really can't account for infinites, even with your best intentions. I think all of the major fighting games now and again fall susceptible to infinites. So we actually built a gameplay mechanic into it where when you do hit that threshold, you actually get a little AP bonus, so you get a little bit of extra AP. It's not, we're not discouraging you from trying to hit the AP system, the infinite system. We're actually sort of encouraging it. So you get like a little 25 AP bonus for bouncing off the top of the system, and then the characters go spinning out. We do have a very fixed number. Currently it's 100 AP. So once you've hit 100 AP in the infinite avoidance system, we do knock players out. But then you do get a 25 AP bonus for that.
Now, I want to talk a little bit, I guess, about your history in the fighting game genre. So, you've come from a background where you helped develop the past few UFC titles.
Yeah.
At Superbot, you also have, ex-Capcom community manager Seth Killian. So is this actually a hardcore fighter in disguise, or like, what have you guys brought in from your more sort of like core fighter experience into the game?
Something that Seth has been saying, and I really, really agree with. Sort of characterizing the game this way, it's kind of like a gateway drug. I think fundamentally at the heart of PlayStation All-Stars, there is a sound fighting game, but at the same time we know you might not come to PlayStation All-Stars because you're really interested in a fighting game. You might come to it because you like Sly Cooper or Parappa the Rapper or someone like that, right? So getting into the game is really simple. We don't have very high execution barriers, you know, like dragon punches and things like that.
Yeah.
But the underlying mechanics of the strategy of how to be successful at PlayStation All-Stars are sort of rooted in the very traditional elements that being good at Street Fighter, or being good at Tekken, or being good at Mortal Kombat, you know, and being able to introduce new players to the sort of beauty of the strategy and the metagame of fighting games is definitely something that's on our agenda, and something that we are intentionally looking to execute for PlayStation All-Stars.
So do you want to be like an Evo like type game, or are you more interested in like being more of a sort of like mass market appeal title?
I think obviously I want to appeal to as many people as we possibly can. I think that's actually the way I view success is if someone can look at this game and say, I think that game might be for me. I think I might, that game looks fun to me. I might have a good time for whatever reasons. If I just approach it casually, if I approach it from a hardcore standpoint, I'd love to appeal to as many people as possible. The Evo crowd is very interesting. You don't get into the Evo crowd by forcing yourselves on them. You know, they decide what they like to play and what they don't like to play, and we respect that. So if they find that they're interested in our game and they want to develop communities and have tournaments, we're obviously going to encourage that. But it really is up to the fans. And listen, I would love it if they did pick it up, but we're going to leave it up to them and let them figure it out for themselves.
Okay, I think we have some questions from the audience now that isn't Ricky Martin, living La Vida Loca, but yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the biggest differences between this game and Super Smash Bros. Well, the most obvious one is that this is a PlayStation game, PlayStation characters on a PlayStation console. Super Smash Bros. I think inherently is a game about the percentages, right? It's about knocking dudes off of levels. We don't have that system in our game. Our game is about the super system, filling your meters, performing the supers. It does create a very different gameplay style. We've got nothing against Smash. I love Smash. There's a bunch of Smash fans at the Superbot office, but instead of just copying that experience, we thought if we could create something new and interesting and add to the space, also something that makes sense for PlayStation owners, we thought that would be the best way to go about it. So that was our approach.
Okay. Is there another question from the floor?
Earlier you were talking about online with the ranked matches. There'd be some form of leveling up and unlocking additional items for doing well, etc. And at the same time you were talking about balance being really important to the game. How are you going to incorporate items without breaking the balance? And what are those items going to look like? Because any type of a power-up or level up I can think of would make one person stronger than the other, and then that essentially ruins the balance that you're going for, right?
Did you get that?
No. Only a little bit, sorry.
So I think the question was, how are you going to incorporate items in the game without breaking the balance, and also what are those items?
Sure, so items. Question was about items.
Yep.
We took the approach with items that they weren't going to be sort of trump cards that you pick up to sort of offset some deficiency. The item system in our game works complementary to our core combat, so items primarily either help you generate a bunch of AP or help you disrupt the AP generation of your opponents. Sometimes they protect you from supers. Really, they do fit into the core combat, and using them intelligently, just as you would like your character's punch or kick, is kind of how we view items. We pulled from all sorts of different PlayStation properties. We have the Spear of Destiny, which it just popped now in Stowaway's level. That's an item that's very good at knocking AP out of your opponents. We have the Gravity Shield from Wipeout. I mentioned that item protects you from supers. We've got this exactly one item that actually can kill you. It's the Medusa head from God of War. So if you know in God of War, if you pick up the Gorgon head and you sort of can put everyone in stone, and if you manage to hit them when they're stone, they sort of shatter. But they can also shake out of it and sort of avoid that. That's our only item that kills. It's called an epic item. It's sort of a rare spawn. But again, like all of our items, fits into our core combat and takes a bit of skill to use.
I think we have one more question from the live audience, and we might get to the finals of our competition.
Yeah.
In particular...
Too loud.
Sorry. characters in particular you tried to get but you couldn't get a hold of because of their game developers?
Any characters that I wanted that I couldn't get?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great answer. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And sometimes the fates don't align. An IP holder will have different plans for their characters and their IP, and sometimes they just don't align with ours. And it's just sort of a part of development. We're obviously going to try as hard as we can to get all the characters that we know the fans want. We're pretty happy with our roster. We think we've got some really cool and interesting characters. We know we can always add more, and we'll always be trying to do that.
Okay, what we're going to do now essentially is after this round is finished, it's going to be the last round, and the winner of the next game will win our prize, which is this Turtle Beach headset here.
Sweet
in the meantime, we'll get a couple more questions from Twitch, Omar, if that's okay. So Blondwolf 441 wants to figure out what Toro's play style is like.
Toro.
Yeah.
Toro might be my favorite designed character in the entire game.
Yep.
Toro, if you don't know anything about Toro, the character, he very much dreams to be human. That's his greatest aspiration in life, is to become human.
Yeah.
He goes on all these crazy adventures, and he meets interesting people along the way, and he likes to help them out in their problems on his quest to become human. So he'll walk up to a sumo wrestler who's practicing for an upcoming tournament. He'll dress up like a sumo wrestler, and he'll say, "Oh, hey, let's go practice in the backyard." There's a baseball team who their pitcher's sick, and they're going to have to forfeit their game. He'll put on a pitcher's outfit, and he'll join the baseball team. So we applied that similar thinking to Toro in PlayStation All-Stars. He's in a fighting game, so he is kind of he's a bit of a parody on some traditional fighting game characters and their mechanics. So there are 3 different sort of stances that Toro has, which are basically 3 different costumes and 3 different fighting archetypes. So
He sounds complex.
he is actually.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a really interesting character, though.
Yeah.
He's got the Justice stance, which is sort of a play up of those very traditional stoic karate heroes that appear in fighting games. He has a ninja stance, which ninja's obviously a big staple in fighting games. There are some games whose the majority of their roster is ninjas, and he's got a bit of a send up on that. And then there's this sort of demon Oni stance that there are a lot of characters in fighting games who get possessed by demon power, and he's got a stance that takes advantage of that too. So he's actually a really interesting character for a cute little cat, but we think it really plays into his personality, and he's a super cool character. I have fun playing with him a lot.
Okay, and we have another question from Twitch from Master Egg. He wants to know, will there be a demo for the game? I know you guys did have a beta in some Asian countries, is that right? Is that going any wider at all? Or?
Yeah, I believe currently, and the PR people are going to be on me for this one, I believe there is a beta currently running for PlayStation Plus users.
Yeah.
You can jump on right now and play the game. I think we will be opening it up a little bit more in the future. We've got about 5 or 6 weeks between now and release. Stay tuned, famous last words. I think we will be opening that up, a little bit more.
And just a reminder, this is the final round, so whoever wins this round that you're seeing on screen right now gets the prize. The questions are coming thick and fast on Twitter now, so I'm just going to keep throwing them at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how you pronounce that name, so I'm just going to go on. He wants to know whether the progress will move from a Vita to a PS3 and back and forth.
Absolutely, yes. Yes. So you buy the game, you play it on whatever console or platform is available to you at that time. If you buy the PlayStation 3 version, you get the PS Vita version free.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer. If you ever are going to buy a PlayStation Vita at any point in your life, it makes sense to take advantage of that. And if you start a progression on your PlayStation 3, you can take it with you on the Vita, and then vice versa. We take advantage of the cloud save. So really cool service.
A lot of people are wanting to know, get a confirmation of how many characters will be available at launch.
Our launch roster is 20 characters. So it's the 20 characters that are actually available at the show today. The build that these guys are playing right now does feature our launch roster.
Your personal favorites out of the 20?
I really like Nariko. I like sort of a high risk, high reward. If you're familiar with Makoto from Street Fighter, she actually reminds me a lot of that character, in that you have to risk a little bit, but when you do and it pays off, you get a big return. It sort of makes you feel smart, makes you feel clever. I have a lot of fun with Noriko, Parappa the Rapper. I also have a lot of fun with Sly Cooper, of course. I know a lot of people in the beta are having fun with Sly Cooper. I'd say those are my 3 probably most favorite characters.
Verge6 wants to know, what can we expect in terms of alternate costumes for characters?
Yeah, so there's a pre-order incentive, actually. If you pre-order the game, you get a bunch of alternate costumes. That's really cool. Also, through our character progression, we have this leveling system through the game. You're able to unlock some additional costumes as well. So a lot of them have some fun with the characters and their history. So yeah, we're really excited to show those off.
Just an update here. It looks like Kratos, right? Is there with 38 seconds to go, but it's still pretty close.
He just hit a level 3 super. Oh, he's going to go on a killing spree right now.
He's
going to get all 3 of them?
Yeah, looks like he's going to get, if he can. Okay, looks like Big Daddy is 3. Let's see if he can get any more here. At 4, there's 5.
He's going nuts right now.
Is he going to get 6? Oh, he is going to get 6. 6.
Oh, that's hardly fair.
Total
that's
kills.
Hardly fair.
And then Big Daddy gets 1. So there's some give and take there.
Okay.
You can shoutcast if you want to, Omar.
What's that?
You can shoutcast if you want to.
I do a lot of shoutcasting. Since E3, I've just been talking while people play this game. I have a lot of fun with it.
So, are there any differences between the Vita version and the PS3 version, or are functionally they're the same game? Is that right?
Other than okay, so the Vita runs at a lower resolution.
Yeah.
That's kind of just the limitation of the screen, right?
Yeah.
But it runs at 60 frames, just like the PlayStation 3 version does.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we really just take advantage of all the PlayStation Vita functionality. So if anything, the Vita doesn't really lose anything. It actually gains a little bit from its unique functionality.
Kratos actually crushed that, 9-2. So congratulations, Kratos.
It's a drubbing.
Well done.
Give the man a clap.
Give the man a clap. That was awesome. And we're just going to give out the prize.
Congratulations.
Right now. So the game is almost complete. Yeah, you're ready to sort of like get it out there to the public.
Yeah, listen, the guys are back at the office right now while I get to hang out here with you, working really hard, stomping a lot of bugs. Getting ready for our release on November 22nd. Yeah.
So what's the reaction been like from regular consumers when you've been showing the game off?
Yeah, I love coming to consumer shows and showing the game off because I think the game makes most sense when you play it. You get to feel it. You get to just walk up here with your friends and play the game. The response has been great. People have been telling me that they've been having a lot of fun with it, and I love to hear that. So, yeah, it's been really good.
So what's the next stage of the trip for you? Are you going out there to spruik the game a bit more, or is it back to finally finishing it now?
I'm actually going to be here for the show all weekend, and then I fly to Brazil, actually, because they're doing a big show down there, so I want to throw some support to the guys down there in LATAM. Yeah, just going to be showing the game around for a little while.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that is it for our look at PlayStation All-Stars. Please, everyone, thank Omar Kendall for answering everyone's questions. It's been really good. I do have one last one for you, and that is a release date, please.
Yeah, so PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale will be out on the PlayStation 3 and PS Vita on November 22nd. Like I said, you buy the PS3 version, you get the Vita version free.